Welcome to the Indiana State Board of Animal Health VET-CVI orientation video. This video will cover large animal certificate creation.
To start creating a large animal health certificate, you'll first want to make sure you're using the correct state. So if you have accreditation in multiple states, whichever you selected as your default will automatically be here. If you have more than one, you can click on this drop down and they will be listed here. You'll need to select the appropriate state before starting your health certificate. Since we're in Indiana, I'll go ahead and use that as my state. And then you will click the Create CVI Large. You can click this here. Or in the top left, you can click Create CVI Large from here as well. We'll start here. Your first page is going to be general details. The first thing you'll notice is automatically you have your health certificate number. For states that require an entry permit number, you will always need your health certificate number to get that. So now you can, right off the bat, get your permit number when starting because you already have your health certificate number. Once you have your permit number, you can type it in here. As a note, anything with a red asterisk is going to be required information. So on this page, the only thing required will be your inspection date. To get that, you'll click anywhere within the date boxes. It will automatically have the current date selected. As a note, once you have inspected your animal, you have 10 days from the inspection date to actually issue your health certificate. So you can go even a couple days back. Once you've got the appropriate inspection date, you'll click the check mark. Shipment date is not required. However, if you know it and would like to include it, you'll do the same thing. Click anywhere within these boxes and select your shipment date. As a note, a health certificate is valid 30 days from the inspection day. So your shipment date will need to be somewhere within 30 days of when you issue your health certificate. Farther down will be your veterinarian information and license information. This is pulled directly from what you entered when you created your account. If anything needs to be changed, you'll do that within the My Account section. If you have any questions or concerns about that, see our VET-CVI navigation video. Once everything is correct, you'll want to click the next button in the bottom right corner. Now you get to your origin and your consignor information. Your origin information will want to be the first and last name or the business name of the origin owner here in Indiana. You only need to have one or the other, not both. Then you'll need to include your address. For the origin information, this is for the animal, so it does need to be a full 911 registered address. You cannot use a PO box number. County is not required, but if you know it, please include it. Phone number is required. If you have a client that does not have a phone number or would not like it included, you just need to format it to be a phone number. So I will just include zeros. Email address is also not required. However, if you enter your client's email address in here, once you have submitted your health certificate, it will automatically email them a copy of the health certificate. As a note, you can only include one email address in this box. You cannot type multiple. However, I will show you a workaround in just a moment. And then you'll have a box here for your premise ID. With large animals, especially livestock like cattle, swine, sheep, and goats, your client should have a premise ID number. And if they know it, please do include it. If they're unsure, you can also call our office and we can look it up for you. The next box here will be current status. Indiana is currently TB and brucellosis free. If you're unsure, please feel free to call our office and we can let you know. This information is not required, however, some destination states might require it, so therefore you can include it here. And finally, here at the bottom is the consigner information. So this is if your client's information differs from the animal's information. So if your client lives at a different address than where the animals are located, or they have a PO box, like business address that they would like included, this is where you will put that information. Phone number is still also included, but it just needs to be formatted to a phone number. And then there's a box here for an email address. So if your client has multiple email addresses that they would like the health certificate sent to once it's finished, you can put one in the origin information and a different one here in the consigner information, and they will both receive a copy. If everything looks correct, you can now hit Next at the bottom right corner. Next, we will have our destination and consignee information. So this will be who is receiving the animals, and the full physical address will need to be here at the top. Same thing as previously, you need the first and last name of the person or the business name and an address. As a note for the destination information, it does automatically select Indiana as the destination state. So for anything else, make sure you are selecting the appropriate destination state and not leaving it as Indiana unless you are writing a health certificate for Indiana to Indiana. County is not required, but if you do know it, please include it. Phone number is the same as before, so it is required. However, if your client either doesn't know the destination phone number or they don't have one, it just needs to be formatted in a phone number style. Email address, here's another spot for if the destination owner would like a copy of the health certificate, you can put their email address here. Again, you can only have one per line, but if there's multiple ones, you could include it in the consignee information. Same thing with the premise ID number. If you do happen to know the premise ID for the destination address, you can include it here, but it is not required. Scrolling down will be your consignee information. So that is if the destination owner's information differs from what the animal destination information is. You'll need to include that here. There's also a button that says same as above. So if both addresses are the same and all the information is the same, you can click this and it will autofill all of the information you already included for the destination. This also works for the origin and consigner. If everything looks correct, you can click Next in the bottom right corner. Next will be your transportation information. The only thing required on this page will be your purpose of movement. To select that, you'll click on the drop down and select whichever you feel appropriately goes with this situation. Most commonly used for large animals is probably going to be breeding, exhibition, show, rodeo, any type of feeding to condition or slaughter. There is personal travel or transit, or even sale. I'm going to select sale for this. Transport method is not required, but you can include. I'm going to select truck. And then there is carrier information. This is also not included, but if your client is using a third-party service to transport their animals, you can include that third-party services information here. It's all the same where you can include business name, address, city, phone number, as well as an email address line. If you include an email here, that will also get a copy at the end when this is submitted. everything is correct, you can click Next in the bottom right. Here's where you can add custom statements, as well as if your owner has any type of herd or flock accreditation, you can select it here. For statements, you can easily type in here or copy and paste. If you've added a statement to your library, you can click the green plus, select the statements you need, then click Close at the bottom. It will then add those statements here. If you have any further questions or concerns on how to add statements to your disease or your disease certification statement library, please see our video on how to do that. If they have any herd or flock accreditations, you'll easily want to toggle the ones that they have. Herd or flock number is going to be for cervids or your sheep and goats. If they have a scrapie flock ID, you can include that here. Or you can free type any other accreditations they might have in this box at the bottom. Then you'll click Next in the bottom right corner. And here's where you will be adding your animals to your health certificate. There are 3 different ways that you can do this. The first one is you'll want to select whichever species you have in the white box. I'm going to do cattle beef, and this will bring you to this page. Group type, you have single, group, or express single. If you're only adding one animal, you'll want to select single. Your species will already be populated. Then you'll put your breed, select sex from the drop down. And then for age, you can either include an exact date of birth, which you'll select by clicking anywhere within the month, day, or year, and selecting the appropriate date, and clicking check. Or you can also include, you've got age, you'll put your number unit here, then select age in from the drop down. If you no longer want the date of birth, you can also select or click the X over here and it'll remove that. Since we are doing a single animal, your head count will be grayed out as 1. You'll need to include an animal description. This can just be the color, or you can retype the breed. Then you'll need to add some sort of ID. For cattle, it auto-selects AIN, which is your animal identification number. Most commonly, that will be your 840 button tag number. But you can also select a couple different ones from the drop down here. You've got BT for back tag, IMP for implant. You can use their name. Noose 8 or Noose 9, that will be the metal tag. Other scrapie flock ID, tag number for sheep and goats, or a tattoo. I'm going to leave it as AIN, and then you'll want to type in your ID number. When you have selected AIN, it automatically knows that this needs to be 15 digits. So if I happen to forget a digit and go to click Save, it does give me an error here saying AIN ID should be 840 FRID followed by 12 digits. So if I now add that last number and click Save, you'll now see under cattle beef, I have 1 entry. So that is how you will add 1 animal at a time. If you have multiple animals with the same kind of basic information, so like age, sex, and breed, here's how you can add them all at one time. You'll click cattle beef again. This time I'm going to select express single, type in my breed, sex, female. I'm going to do 18 months. You'll now see my head count is open, and I'll type in the number there. I'll put 2 in your animal description. So now you'll see it's still AIN, but you have a couple different options. Apply same to all. When you type in the value and click save with this, it'll apply the exact same tag number to each animal. Since that is rarely ever used or needed, you can either select range, which now if I put in my 840 tag number, and if I click save, I now have 3 entries. And if I go to look at them, you can now see these are the 2 that I just entered, and automatically created this number that is next in the sequence. Back to cattle beef. Next will be, so we'll do express single again. Say these are males that are 2 years. And I'll do a head count of 2 again. Now I'll select manual, and what I will need to do when I type in the IDs is, if I've got my first one, I will then click enter and type in the second ID number. Another thing you can do is if your animal has your official ID but also has a farm tag that you would like to include, you can click the green plus button. You want to select your ID type, so I would do management ID. I'll click manual again, and then you'll type in the farm tags. You want to make sure you put them in the same sequence as the official ID. That way it'll match the appropriate farm tag to the official ID. Now if I click save, you can see I've got 5 entries here. If I go to look at them, so the ones that I just added with the farm tags, you can see it aligned the appropriate farm tag with the appropriate 840 tag. Now, if you are sending a large group of animals who do not necessarily need an official ID, whether it's cattle that are too young, or if you're sending a large group of, let's say, pigs that are all moving on the same tattoo, you can select group. You want to type your breed in again. With this, you can also use mixed group. You want to include the approximate age and the head count. And then for the value, let's see if it was a premise ID number. You can then click save. Now I've got 6 entries, but it's an animal count of 3. That's how you can add them all at one time if they're using the same tag number. The last way that you can add animals to your health certificate is by using an Excel spreadsheet. To know how to do that, please see our video on how to use the animal import spreadsheet. So once you've got all of your animals entered appropriately, you can go to this page. If some of them no longer need to be included, you can delete them with the red trash can. If anything needs to be edited, say the tag number was wrong or the age was wrong, you can go to this pen and paper icon. It'll take you back to this page where you can then change that information. Then click save in the bottom right. Here is also where you'll be adding any tests or vaccinations for these animals. So if they all had the same test on the same day, you can click select all and then click add test here in the top left. For these tests, you'll first want to enter the test name. So I'm going to do TB. Test code is required, but there's not necessarily a universal standard for what needs to be included in this box. So I usually just retype the same thing as the test name. you'll type in your result. And then you'll see here also a session number is required. So for TB, this is usually something that you're doing out on the farm, not necessarily sent off to the lab. So this will be assigned as an in-field test. Over to the right here, you will toggle this. And then you'll want to include your test date and any comments you have. If everything looks correct, you'll then click Save. You can now see there's this edit test next to each animal. If they had some sort of test that was sent off to a lab, what you'll want to do is select the appropriate animals, click Add Test. Now, I know I have this for cattle, but I'm going to show you like what an EIA will look like for a horse. And click your results. And then the accession number, you can see it is required. If you click the drop down, there's nothing there. So what you'll need to do is click the green plus button. And here's where you include the accession information for that specific test. So you need to include the date it was done, the accession number. You'll find this on your lab results, and the lab name. There's other lines here for the lab's premise ID or address. This is not required information, but if you do know it, you can include it. If everything looks correct with your date, your accession number, and the lab name, you'll click Save in the bottom right. And you can now see that it's added our accession number. If you need to make any changes, you can click the Edit button over here, and it'll take you back to that same page. If again everything looks correct, you can now click Save in the bottom right. And then if you add any other tests, if you click this accession, you'll now see your previous one there. So if you add any animals after, creating your accession and you need to quickly add this accession to those same animals, you can select it and type in this information again. Click Save. You've now added that to this animal as well, and you don't need to create the accession once again. If your animals have any vaccinations, it's very similar to adding a test. You'll want to select the appropriate animal, whether it's just one or all of them, and click Add Vaccination. This will look a little different in that you will need to free type all of that information. So if your animals had a brucellosis vaccination, you'll type all the needed information there, and then you'll select the date that that vaccination was given. If you have multiple vaccinations for that animal, you can click the green plus button and type and add in the other vaccinations. If you don't need one, you'll click the red minus. You'll get an alert saying, "Are you sure you want to delete this?" And you'll click yes. If everything is appropriate, you'll then click Save in the bottom right. And now you can see Edit Vaccine next to each animal. If you need to change anything for that specific animal, you'll just click there. Let's say this one did not get that vaccine. You can delete it and click Save. And now it says Add Vaccine since we deleted it. If everything looks appropriate for these animals, you've added all the tests you need and the vaccinations you need, you'll click Done in the bottom right. And then you can click Next. As a reminder, you can only have one species per health certificate. The only exception to that is, you can't add dairy and beef cattle the same health certificate, but you cannot have dairy cattle and turkeys or sheep and swine. It's only one species per health certificate. Next here will be your review page. So this shows you a quick review of each section that we went through. So your general details, your origin information. You can see here business name is red. However, you only need first and last name or the business name. Same thing for destination. These are red, but I included a business name. We don't need the first and last name. Got your transportation, your health page, species. So this is where you can see each animal listed out with their tests and vaccinations. If you click next in the bottom right, you'll then come to the final page where you can click here to certify and submit, or you've also got a preview button here. If you click this, you click the preview button, it'll then bring up a PDF copy of what your health certificate will look like once it's submitted. If you don't like looking at the review page previously and would rather see a full health certificate, this is where you can review it before submitting it. So as you can see, your origin consigner, here's where I included different consigner information in the origin. You've got your animals listed out with their tests and vaccines. Everything seems to look appropriate and how you would like it to be. You will then click the check mark and then click submit. You should pretty quickly get a banner that says CVI submitted successfully. You can click OK, and it'll bring you right back to the home page. Now that I've submitted the health certificate, any email address that I included will receive an email with a PDF copy attached to it. Whichever email address is used for the account will also receive a PDF copy of it. If you have any other concerns or you're unsure if you submitted successfully, check for that email as well as you can check in the CVI status. And that is how you create a large animal health certificate.
Thank you for viewing this video. If you need additional assistance, check out the BOAH website.